2024. Man, does that number make me feel old. 2024 is going to be an interesting one for Pokémon, and it's a year that's incredibly hard to predict. I talk a lot about Pokémon games on this channel, so I wanted to have a little chat about what Pokémon and Game Freak may be cooking up next for a potential release sometime this year, most likely November time. And there are a good few options, more than ever it feels like. And I am going to give my own predictions for the next game too, so stick around until the end if you want to hear that. We can take Generation 10 off the table early on, I reckon. It's far too early for that. Gen 10 will be 2025 or potentially 2026 if they want to take a tad longer. It is the 10th generation after all, you'd think Pokemon will want to do something big for that milestone. But we do have a couple of regions that you could argue are due a revisit, so let's talk about those. Most heavily rumoured is Unova, which is Generation 5. There has been a fair bit of Gen 5 themed activity from Pokemon recently. The Scarlet Violet DLC takes place in Unova, that's the obvious big one. There's a new Unovan themed evolution, heavy past and future themes in Scarlet and Violet which could open the door to tie in with Gen 5 lore. There are a lot of similarities there, a lot of opportunities for crossover with these worlds. So what kind of Unova game could we get? Gen 5 is next up for a remake, after we got Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl in the back end of 2021. But Gen 5 presents a predicament in that it came in two parts. Black and White followed by Black 2, White 2. So that is something they would have to find a way to navigate. Could a remake be made in a similar form to what they did with Gen 3 perhaps? Where we got an alternate timeline where Mega Evolution exists in Hoenn? Maybe we'll explore an alternate Unova that features the Terastal phenomenon. I think that could be really cool to see. Maybe that could be the conceptual Black 3, White 3 many Pokemon gamers have yearned for years now. And a game like that, similarly to Mega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, could see Unova cross over into the 3D universe. I can hear you all salivating. Another possibility is a Legends style game, where we venture into a past Unova. This would likely centre around the original Unovan legendary dragon, before it split into the three dragons we're so familiar with in modern day. So the setup is there. It's the origin story every Gen 5 fanboy wants to see told, so this could be a popular choice. The other option is a faithful remake, just as we had with BDSP a couple of years ago. Those games were not received favourably by the Pokemon player base, to put it very lightly, but they did sell well, and I feel like that's all the data the Pokemon company will feel they need to make a decision on potentially making another one. It would likely just be a plain and simple Black and White reskin if it was to happen. No Black 2, White 2 I wouldn't imagine. I feel like Gen 5 has an even more dedicated fanbase than Gen 4, so if they made something as underwhelming and buggy as BDSP with these games, it's going to incite some real backlash, and for that reason I think Pokemon may steer away from a faithful remake in this same style. But who knows at the end of the day. So that's Gen 5. The other generation involved in the conversation right now is Gen 2. So I think the main reason Gen 2 is in the mix is because Johto is the region we've spent the longest time away from at this point. 2009 in Japan and 2010 everywhere else was the last time we ventured into Johto with the Silver and Gold remakes. And those games are highly revered by the Pokemon player base. They are chock full of content and they've held up so well to the test of time. To this day, I still think the chibi art in these games looks incredible. So how would we revisit Johto? The big one for me would be a Legends game. I've talked about it before, Johto is dripping in lore you could dive into for a Legends game. The Unknown, the Burnt Tower, the Whirl Islands, the Azalea Town Drought, the Sprout Tower. I'm warning you, if this happens, this channel will turn into a Johto funfest for a while. Just putting that out there. But yeah, a Johto Legends game, right at the top of the wishlist for me. If I could make the decision for Pokemon right this second, this would be my choice. But it's not the only choice, because something we could also see is a Johto Let's Go game. Now I'm going to level with you guys and say that I am not a fan of Let's Go. I will make a video on that at some point in the next few months. But it is a possibility. For a long time I thought that Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were just going to be standalone games. A fun little experiment by Pokemon and an excuse to visit Kanto again. But now I find myself thinking, they could do this again. A big thing with the Let's Go games was their crossover with Pokemon Go. Both games kind of encourage the player to play the other. They're sort of a gateway into each other, so if Pokemon wanted to push another wave of Pokemon Go promotion, that could well be the way to do it. I will say though that I think a Let's Go game is only a slim possibility. I think other games we've mentioned here would generate way more hype and sell much better, but we can't completely discount it. The last Johto possibility I want to touch on here is a faithful remake of Heart Gold Soul Silver. This does sound a little bizarre because I'm talking about a remake of a remake here, but basically I think Pokemon would envision a lot of interest in this, and I could see it too. It's a game many people loved. It features both the Johto region and the Kanto region in one game, so they'd be able to visit Kanto again, guys. Doing it in the faithful BDSP style would play up to the nostalgia of a very passionate generation of fans. For context, I wasn't a huge fan of BDSP's style, but if Johto got the faithful remake treatment, I can't lie, I'd be all over it. Maybe I'm part of the problem in that sense, but I would eat it up probably as most other Gen 1 and Gen 2 fans would. Johto has to be coming soon. It's simply been that long at this point that they've got to want to do something with it in the near future. So that's Johto. There is one outlandish possibility I've seen a few people talk about online here and there, and that's the idea of a Scarlet and Violet 2. So sequels to the current games. The concept itself isn't that outlandish, it's been done before, Black 2, White 2, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, but the idea of having more Scarlet and Violet after having those games, plus 2 DLCs and an epilogue, it's pretty far-fetched. But on the other hand, imagine a polished and optimized version of these games. If there's anything at all that could give the whole Scarlet Violet experience genuine fundamental replayability, it would be fixing all the gameplay issues in these games. The lagging, the frame rate, oh my god, fixing the frame rate alone would double my review score for these games. Because as good as Scarlet and Violet's narrative was, it's been consistently tainted by bad performance. It actually makes me motion sick. If I'm doing an outbreak and I'm riding back and forth for a little while, after about 40 minutes or so, the constant stuttering of the game makes me nauseous, to the point where I often have to go and lie down for a while. I don't feel like any game should do that. But it's still a very slim possibility. I personally don't think Scarlet Violet sequels will be happening. I think Pokemon will be wanting to explore other options. And those are all the options I wanted to talk about. There are a lot of possible pathways Pokemon could take with their video games in 2024. And with Pokemon Day right around the corner, we are only like 7 weeks out from it at the time of releasing this video, the conversation is about to get really loud around what's coming next. If you want my prediction for what's coming next, here it is. I think we're going to get another BDSP Legends situation. I think we're going to get a game in November 2024, and then another game 3 or 4 months later. I think the first game will be a Johto game of some sort. Possibly the faithful-ish BDSP-style remake I mentioned earlier. Something simple and fun that they've most likely outsourced to Ilka again for us to play during the holidays. I say faithful-ish because I don't think it'll be graphically the same as BDSP. I think it'll be closer to a Mega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Fun little info nugget, Johto and Unova are the last 2 regions remaining without a 3D universe entry. I think this remake could push Johto into 3D for the first time. I think that will then be followed up with the next big game that Game Freak have been working on, which I think will be a Gen 5 Legends game. But I don't think it'll be the same kind of Legends game that Legends Arceus was. I think it'll lean heavily into both past and future backdrops, and take place across multiple locations in Unova without taking place in the whole of Unova. Yeah, I have a feeling it won't be open world. I think it's a game where we'll potentially be fluttering between timelines whenever we change location. So that's my prediction. A Johto remake followed up by a brand new Unova experience. Both games pushing those respective regions into the 3D universe. But these are just my silly thoughts. I want to hear your silly thoughts. What do you think we can potentially expect from Pokemon video games in 2024? Let me know down in the comments, because there are so many possibilities for the next games that I think there's going to be some interesting conversations to be had down there. While you are down there, feel free to drop a like on the video if you want. Subscribe for more Pokemon videos. Oh, and hit the notification bell too. I always forget to mention that. If you want a little push notification whenever a new video goes live, That's how you do it. And of course, follow me on Twitch if you'd like to hang out when I go live. I'm committing myself to 2 streams a week over there in 2024. I've got some really fun challenge runs lined up, and I also do a lot of shiny hunting too, so I'd love to see you over there. Thanks so much for watching, that's all from me, and I will catch you all in the next one.